He's just trying to find a way in. And now he's coming around. He's going to have to move in a hurry. The count goes on. There's a block. Here he comes. Forearm smash. Kevin Von Erich pounding away. And the kick. And Firstman is slow to get up. Kevin moves right back in. Tries to get a body stretcher. You got it? Firstman won't give, won't go. Still working, still working. And Firstman broke it, but he is a stunned young man himself. And Kevin is stunned. He is weary. They come in again. Firstman leaning in. And a smash away now. A hard right. And again. And again. How about that backflip? That had Firstman confused. And Firstman is really having his problems now. The body stretcher again. Now he lost it that time. He's going to just do a roll. Let's do the pinwheel. Make the pinwheel around the ring. He might stop. Then a 10, 1, 2, 3. Kevin wins.
Well, that's how it all began. Kevin Von Erich.
For under 20 years old. In fact, the East German is about 9 friends. They, you know, I didn't have to put up with that kind of talk from them, but a lot of people do. You know, wrestling does have that stereotype of it's not real, or it's this, or it's that. But any time the Von Erich step in the ring, we give it 100%. We give it everything we've got. Otherwise, there'd be no gratification in it for us. We wouldn't feel like we'd given all of ourselves. And that's not the way my dad brought us up. He taught us to whatever you do, you put all of yourself into it, and we do.
Is wrestling a sport? Do you consider it a sport, or is it show business?
Wrestling's a sport.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, in our business, we've got the greatest athletes in the world. It's like when my father says he was a fair athlete in college, my father was a great athlete in college.
Southwest Conference discus record.
Yeah, and in fact, when I came into competing in the discus, the reason I did is because my father was so great at it, and he told me, he said, you learn to throw it right, and I'll go back to school and I'll learn how to teach you how to throw that thing. And so we did, and we finally broke the national record and went on to college with it. But our business, our wrestling, it is a sport, and we have the greatest athletes in the world in our business.
No,
Scott, listen, let's just clear that up once and for all.
Okay.
It comes right down to it. Sure, wrestling, as far as we're concerned, and we can't speak for everybody in this sport.
Sure.
We can speak for ourselves. For us, it is sport. However, partner, in any professional sport today, there's got to be an element of showmanship there. If you don't, you lose your crowd. I don't care if it's football, basketball, ice hockey. It's got to be there. Just going out and giving it straight, walking to the ring, grabbing a hammerlock, walking out, it's no good. The boys coming out of the ring where they fly over those ropes. Kerr does a little particular dance when he comes in. He loves it. It's his style. That's showmanship. When that bell rings, the match starts, the showmanship is done. That's speaking for us.
what is the epitome of the wrestling business? If you were to get to the very top, what is the goal to attain?
Are you asking me?
Okay, I'll ask.
Outside of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And number 2 would be probably the World Heavyweight Championship.
Is that right? Who holds that at the moment?
Both
As far as we're concerned, also, when Dave, Kerry, and I were wrestling together, the three of us, before my brother was killed in Japan, my brother Dave was killed in Tokyo in 1984 from a kick to the stomach. Enteritis, they called it. The six-man world title was really more important than the world title to us. Just because it was the three of us, it just kind of had a drawing that you can't really put your finger on. Just the three of us in there together, man, there's no feeling like it. But,
yeah, and
the world belt is the...
But when the brothers were in there, like when Kev is in the ring with me, or my brother Dave and I, and Kevin, we're all three in the ring together, it's like magic. I mean, like when Kevin's fighting, if he's getting hurt, my brother Dave and I, we feel it, you know, and so we know when he's in trouble, when we're about to lose that match, because we're brothers, and it gives us a feeling of that I guess ever since we were growing up, we always fought together. I mean, in school, if somebody picked on one of us, my dad always taught us don't ever be a bully because we knew how to fight pretty well when we were young. But we were never bullies. But then we came into wrestling and we still fought together. And
we grew up as, you know, rough little boys, but we weren't bullies at all. Our dad taught us, you know, to stick up for what you believe in and all, but we never fought anyone that didn't want to fight us. You know, fighting was like a sport when we were little boys. It was just fun, just like any other little boy. We enjoyed it.
Okay, when you talk about, you know, you have a strong family bond, and you talk about each other in that way, and you love one another, care about one another. There, you mentioned at the outset you had a son named Jackie.
He's our firstborn.
Firstborn. What happened to Jack?
Jackie, I'll let his mother tell that. That before you do, Mom. That, of course, at the time we had two other little boys. We had Kevin and we had David. They're very young. Kevin was killed about 3, and David was about 2.
No, Kevin was 22 months old.
There's a year apart, Kevin, David, and Carrie. But Jackie was our oldest. And we lived in a mobile home in Niagara Falls, New York, and I was wrestling in Cleveland, Ohio that night. It was in March, and at that time, some of your snows began to melt, you know, and so forth, but there's still a lot of snow in that area, even in March and April. Jackie had come between two mobile homes, and one of them had been rewired that day, and they left the metal skin on the mobile home hot, accidentally. And Jackie had been playing in the snow, and he was wet, and he came between the mobile homes and just touched it. And knocked him unconscious into a puddle of melting snow, and he drowned. Anyway, that was a tough one for all of us, and we've lost 2 other children since that time, but we didn't know Jesus Christ then, and we didn't have a crutch. But since that time, we lost 2 of our other sons, and it's been easier. But that first one, I think, was, how do you explain it? If you ever lost a child, you know precisely what I mean.
Well, all your hopes, your dreams, everything you have are built into that first son.
You know you have 2 other little boys, which we did. At that moment, Jackie was the only boy we had, and our life was gone. As a matter of fact, that indirectly started me on the path to Jesus Christ.
We're going to find out where this path took them all, not only in wrestling, but in the other sides of their life, and how this family can still sit here just now and talk about it when we come back on Straight Talk.
And away we go, Kevin Von Erich and Kabuki. We could probably have this conclusion of this thrilling match right after this.
Really, I realized now I wanted to die. I really did. I had 2 little boys. I just didn't want to stay here. And I remember one night driving back over the Peace Bridge from Buffalo, New York to Niagara Falls. I remember the big semi-truck. There's a lot of snow on the road still, and the semi was too close to me, and I thought, doggone, that guy, he needs to be over a little bit. Remember the old mud around his license plate as I looked in my rearview mirror? But it's that moment, Scott, I decided to pray. I tried everything else. I hurt so bad inside, I had to turn to something, even something I didn't necessarily believe in. And I said, Lord, if you would just get me off the road, Doris and I and these boys, get us back to Texas where we can raise these boys in a normal way and get away, because I blame myself for being on the road for that youngster's death. I said, Lord, if you'll do that, I'll serve you the rest of my life. Then I said, Scott, but don't think you're there. Because, Scott, I didn't. It just showed to me then, though, that the Lord answers prayers even from non-believers. I've heard some Christians say he doesn't answer prayers of non-believers. He did that thing. Because years later, partner, I forgot all about that prayer. Years later, I found myself back in Texas. And now, keeping in mind, in 1962 or 64, when I went forward,
I think it's
the First Baptist Church in Dallas, Brother Crystal. In fact, the First Baptist in Dallas that's right, it's the biggest Baptist church in the United States.
That's about 20,000 people.
Oh, fantastic. We go to services there, and at times you can't even get parked much less get in the church. It's a great church, great preacher. I went forward, and it was 1964. Felt I was moved, and something happened. Went down with a couple of friends. The only reason I was there, not because I wanted to hear about Jesus, but I liked the company of our friends. Went down there and found myself the altar call going forward. Dr. Crystal, you did say this. That night, I said to Dr. Crystal, Dr. Crystal, you're the damnedest preacher I ever saw. And you know what he said? He said, hey, let me tell you what Fritz just told me. He said, I'm the damnedest preacher he ever saw. You know, it was a moment of euphoria, and it lasted really, Scott, a couple of weeks. It faded out. But, brother, in 1976, traveling in bumper-to-bumper traffic on I-35 going from Lake Dallas into my office in downtown Dallas. And all of a sudden, Scott, don't mean to tell you the Lord spoke to me like you hear me now, but I sensed it as strong as I understand you now. And he said, all of a sudden, in this bumper-to-bumper traffic, what'd you ask for? What'd you promise me? Where are you now? I couldn't believe that. I wasn't even thinking about anything like this. Just all of a sudden, there it was. I began trying to work over to the side of the road. I thought I was going crazy. Because, brother, I remembered right then what I'd promised him. Back on that Peace Bridge in Buffalo, New York, back in 1959. I'll serve you the rest of my life. Because there I am. What do I have? Man, we've got it all. A happy life, happy family. We've got everything going for us. And what did I promise him? I'd serve him the rest of my life. And, Scott, at that moment, I wasn't sure I could serve him the rest of my life. As a matter of fact, I've done a lousy job since. But you know the difference, brother? I've tried.
Scott, I want you to know, excuse me, Dad, just a second. We never interrupt our dad. This time
I can understand that.
Kind of on the other side of the coin, though, my dad was known, and anybody that knows anything about wrestling knows my dad was the most ferocious wrestler ever. I mean, you know, the bad guy comes out of the back, they all boo him, not him. The place was quiet. Everyone in the place was afraid of this guy because he didn't want to live. He had a rage that just projected itself in everything he did. It was hard to find wrestlers to wrestle against him. Everybody that wrestled him was hurt. That's why my father's known all over Australia, Japan, New Zealand, the Middle East. Everyone knows Fritz von Erich, and that's what opened the door for the Von Erich brothers.
But when you get into a wrestling match with God, he pinned you. You lost. I mean, but you also won.
I've never even won one of 3 falls with him yet.
No, okay. Let's move down the road a little bit. You had another son, as was mentioned just a few minutes ago, who... David. Now, what happened to David?
David was 17 months younger than Kevin, 14 months younger than Kevin, 17 months older than Kerry.
Okay.
And when he was 25, he went over to Japan to wrestle and was injured in the ring and died of acute enteritis in a Tokyo hotel.
For a mother, what does that... I mean, to lose a son is bad enough for a father, but for a mother who... to allow your boys now into the ring, what does that do to you?
Well, as far as being in the ring, I don't really think that has that much to do with it.
No? I mean, would you rather they were accountants or something?
That probably would make it easier on me. It wouldn't make their lives as much fun. I want them to enjoy what they do, and they do. They enjoy what they're doing.
Boy, that's
and
our
I
mother's
think that's
love,
great.
Right?
But
did she be willing to let you guys do that because she loves you? I mean...
But in losing David, it was a very, very hard thing for all of us, and I don't guess we'll ever not grieve for him and not love him and not look for the day when God will join us back together again.
Yeah.
But that will come, and probably sooner than any of us really realize. Because I think we're in the latter days.
And one thing we can be kind of thankful for, they say enteritis is a really painful death. And I had been wrestling with Dave on the East Coast, and he was really dizzy and sweating a lot and sick to his stomach. And so I said, Dave, you stay in the corner and you let, if I need you, well, then I'll tag in. We had a couple of matches like that, and then he left for Japan and died in Japan of the enteritis. But they said the sheets weren't messed up where he'd gripped the sheet. He just died in his sleep. It was an easy death for him.
You mentioned, too, you said, how could you let your boys do that? Our mom and dad, they've always wanted us to do whatever made us happy. It didn't matter if we were accountants or lawyers or doctors or wrestlers or football players or whatever. They just wanted to make sure whatever we did it 100% and did the very best we could do. And so, they want what makes us happy. And if we're in the ring, I mean, that's what makes us happy. And so that's why we do that. We were mentioning my brother Dave. And, that's really, I guess, when I was first saved, where I really acknowledged God the strongest, because I remember one time I was laying in a hotel room. My brother Dave was laying there next to me, and I thought to myself, before I'd really found God, I thought to myself, what would I do if this guy died, because I loved him so much, and, so did Kev and Chris, and, I mean, he was everything to us. He was the most responsible one of Kev and me. When we were kids, if we were out digging a ditch, my dad would say, okay, Dave, I want in the ditch. this deep and this long, and Kevin and me just kind of looked at each other like, yeah, okay, you know. And Dave would be doing all the work, and Kevin and I used to be the goal brickers, and we'd kind of see how little work we could do without Dave catching us.
That's where I live.
And so Dave was kind of the, was that one. And so, but anyway, when he did die, before I was Christian, I would have thought, you know, God, why'd you take my brother from me? Why did you do that? But instead, I caught myself thanking him for the 25 years he gave him to us. You know, so it was really, you know, you could really feel it.
And Dave's funeral, when my brother did have his funeral, there were thousands attended the funeral, and thousands of letters from Israel. And people in Israel know where we stand. They know that we do love the Lord and that Jesus Christ is our King. You know, it's different than their religion. And Dave's death had a real, I think the Lord used my brother Dave's death, and that's the real gratification to us.
And which, you know, we think sometimes, though, you know, what good came out of it? Why take our brother? Well, what good came out of it is that at the funeral, we told the people that, hey, if you want to see my brother again, accept Jesus into your life, let him come into your life, and you'll have everlasting life in heaven. And so thousands and millions of people all over the world were saved because of my brother's death.
Life came out of death, but this saga of death didn't end here. There was more, and we're going to find out how strong this family really is when we come back on Straight Talk. There was another son, and this one, again, he was a wrestler, an excellent wrestler.
Yes.
Mike, 21. Chris, you haven't said anything yet. What about your big brother, Mike?
Well, you know, I don't want to seem like I'm bitter about death or anything like that, because I'm not. Me and Mike were real close. We were best friends. We were always together. Whenever we were in school, I didn't hang around with my friends. I hung around with his friends until I grew up. And but as far as, you know, everything's concerned, is Mike and me prayed together, and we were always together. We loved God. And I felt sure that I am sure now that Mike went to heaven. And we'll see him soon, along with our brother Dave. And, you know, we don't have any worries, and we're not doubtful at all. And we don't say, God, why is it happening again? We just say, Lord, we know we'll see him soon, and we'll be as strong as we can.
Well, what happened to Mike?
Well, Mike, after the toxic shock, just...
No, he had toxic shock syndrome. Is that what it is called?
After a shoulder operation from Tel Aviv, he injured his shoulder in Israel.
In wrestling?
Right.
Scott, there's only been 4 young men that have toxic shock in the medical records in the United States that they found. Young athletes, about the same age as Mike. Not one of them lived. Mike was the only one that made it.
Why did he make it?
Because of Jesus Christ.
A miracle.
The doctor said because he was in tip-top condition, but we know, we prayed for a miracle. We hit our knees, and we could feel the presence of God in that room when we
Listen,
prayed.
if there's a medical facility, it was Baylor Medical Center in Dallas. It does, they're tops. Boone Powell, Susan Allen, Dr. Bill Sutker, the greatest folks in the world, the greatest facilities in the world. If there was anything physical, anything in this world that saved them, that hospital and those doctors did. But it was too much for them. What really saved Mike's life was the fact that we and about 20 or 25 of our Christian friends, after we got the news there was no chance for Mike to live, prostrated ourselves on that big waiting room floor and prayed to God for over 2 hours. And here we were 20 minutes, and 2 hours later, Mike is still alive and we're still praying.
And his temperature had gone from 107 to 101.
Now, keeping in mind, Scott, he had 107 temperature for hours. Every major organ in his body is shut down, from his heart to his kidneys. Everything is just completely stopped.
Digestive system.
There was no chance, nothing.
But prayer revived it.
We came back, and about 2 hours later, now, I'm getting ahead of myself, really, because this part of it, unfortunately, I was not there. I came in after this, but I certainly told what happened in this area. Dr. Sutker walked back in at the end of this prayer session, right after. He says, I don't know what's happened. I can't explain it. But he is showing at least some improvement. They'd said 20 minutes. Now here we're over 2 hours. When I got into that room and heard what had happened, I knew then that our Lord Jesus Christ was going to let Mike stay with us. Never had any question. He went right on from there day to day. He said, I see you for over 30 days, you know. Anyway, we were talking about the toxic shock, and Mike finally committed suicide. And unfortunately, folks, that is what happened.
This toxic shock affected him then in ways that were not immediately visible.
107 degrees fever is, you know, anyone knows will kill somebody.
Yeah.
Well, we were kind of being optimistic. We'd had our brother back. We're just happy to have him. Seemed like he was sharp. He was clear. But there was something not right. Mike's, when he would lift weights, his body wouldn't come back like it would. Injuries stayed on. He couldn't, wasn't as resilient as before.
His balance was, one time we were out on my boat, and the boat was kind of rocking, and you know, Kev has got tremendous balance, and so all my brothers do. And just for an example, if Kev would have jumped on the bow of my boat, he would have stayed on, doesn't matter how much it was rocking. But my little brother Mike, he jumped on, and he jumped on and fell right off. But I remember feeling so bad inside, we tried to laugh it off. But from that time, I remember I thought,
we
man,
tried to ignore it, but Mike
Mike was hurt. He never fully recovered. And Mike was worried about the future. He knew with all this damage that he'd had at that time, he didn't know how long he was going to live. He was very concerned about that.
And he was under a doctor's care that he had chosen himself. He was going for counseling because he didn't want us to know about the doctor, didn't want us to worry. And this doctor had prescribed a medication that worked adversely on Mike. Rather than bring him out of depression, it caused him to become more depressed.
So he took an overdose of...
Yes, of the medicine that the doctor...
Placidil.
Something like that the doctor had given him.
Placidil.
Looking at those tragedies, how can you sit here and say God's a good God?
Oh, because he is.
Because we're thankful for every day we have together. Look at us, we're here together right now. Are we not to take the good with the bad?
And where else do you turn?
And God, without him, what are we going to do? Are we going to, like Jesus said, where are you going to go?
Yeah, yeah, Peter said, yeah, where will we go, Lord? You have the words of life.
You and everyone else in this audience that knows Jesus Christ, now I hope and pray everybody here does. You know that this time that we're on this earth is only just a speck in the proverbial ocean of eternity. Just a speck of life. You know how long eternity is? Man, you can't even comprehend. You can't imagine. This is a fleck of that time right here. We're pictured to find Jesus Christ, nothing else. From there on, the Lord does things we don't understand.
That's right. And perhaps someone in this audience, many of you in this audience, have experienced tragedy in your own life. Perhaps not to this degree. Perhaps you have, maybe even greater. The fact that they can sit here and say this is because the light that's in them, as this family has said, is eternal. If you'd like to know about the life, you can call our counselors right now, 1-800-446-0700. Call the name of the Lord. You will be saved. Scott Ross here, Straight Talk. You're staying with us. We'll be right back. All the adulation there towards his family, and people perhaps admire them for one reason. We're talking here today on a whole other level. But we're going to talk about the wrestling, too. We have many phone calls coming in. And incidentally, if you'd like to read about this very brave family, the Von Erichs, here they are, the book, A Family Album. And it is available in the majority of bookstores across the country. And we encourage you to get it. It's full of photographs, and the whole story is in here. So there you go. Cleveland, Ohio, we're going to take a call right now on Straight Talk. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Fred, when you wrestled in Cleveland, who was the toughest to wrestle, Bobo Brazil or Lord Athol Leighton? Second, was Waldo Von Erich really your brother, and how would you compare wrestling today from what it was back when you wrestled?
You're supposed to ask one question, you asked three. Partner, I would think Bobo Brazil was in a class all by himself. Athol Leighton was a pretty good man, but he wasn't a Bobo Brazil. Which of the other two you want me to answer next?
How would you compare, I guess, wrestling today from was back when you wrestled in the old arena?
You remember the old arena on Euclid Avenue?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ask who is still wrestling today?
No.
No, I said, how would you...
Oh, today within?
Right.
Yeah.
Son, I'm not real sure it's not even tougher today because the sport has speeded up so much. Of course, in those days, it was tough. If you saw many of those matches in the arena, you know what I'm talking about. But I watch these boys, Kevin and Kerry, and moving out there like they do, and Kevin is kind of an acrobatic wrestler. I could never do anything like that. I think they accepted a slower type wrestling in those days than they do today. The fans, I mean.
What is an acrobatic wrestler? Is it when you literally, you know, do somersaults, fly through the air and hit somebody with 3 feet?
Well, to every wrestling move, there's a counter, and a lot of my moves are like off the top ropes, and you know they're aerial, and I mean a lot of people, you know, they're exciting, but also there aren't counters for holds off the top ropes and off the top turnbuckles, and so that's why I choose that, because other people don't do it.
You know, right now Kevin and I are the World Tag Team Champions, and you know, because of his acrobatics in the ring, or really you can't really call it acrobatics, but his quickness. He's probably the quickest wrestler in all of wrestling. And I'm one of the strongest. And when we tag team together, now you got to brag on me next.
I will.
But you did brag on both of them.
Okay. But anyway, when we get in the ring together, because of my strength and his quickness, if a guy needs quickness to beat him, we use quickness. If we need strength, we use strength. And so that makes us a strong team.
One of the questions coming into you from obviously someone who knew the sport when you were wrestling, you also were infamous for the Iron Claw. Now, don't demonstrate on me, demonstrate on one of those guys. But what was the Iron Claw?
Scott, would you like me to show you?
Oh, no, because I go see Jesus if you did that to me. I don't want to.
My dad taught us a lot of special exercises we've done to strengthen our fingertips that I'd like to show you, but I'm wired for sound here.
Yeah?
No, we
stay right here. Just stay where you are.
Years ago, I developed particular exercises. At one time, Scott, I think you can safely say I probably had the strongest grip in the world. Breaking the pliers, bending the silver dollars, flipping body
He used to go on talk shows and do all that.
He can open Coca-Colas with his thumb.
But we have some exercises I developed years ago, because it always started with a shot and discus, natural strength in the forearm. These exercises just give us super strength, and of course the boys, even Chris has a heck of a grip. He's way behind all of us yet. But these exercises we use. And there's no secret to the Iron Claw. A lot of people say, Fritz, what's the secret? Man, there ain't no secret. Not at all. It's strength. And you need a big hand to reach from here to here on the temple. This pressure is right there.
And what knocks the guy out?
Submission, usually.
Well, usually there's blood that comes. Athletes bleed profusely around the eyebrows and you get a lick, of any kind. And most of the time when I applied that hold, and even with Kevin and Kerry today, at least half the time they'll bleed from the eyebrows to the forehead, from that grip, because you pull their skin tight. That's not what's hurting. People see that blood and say, oh, look at that blood. It's not the blood, brother. It's a pressure on the
Okay, let me, as a father, I have a couple of sons. There's times I wish I had an Iron Claw. How do you restrain yourself when you're disciplining sons when they're growing up and do the things that sons do? How have you been able to keep that all in balance?
He doesn't. That's why we're such great wrestlers.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll come back to that one. We're going to take another call. Woodstock, Vermont, go ahead. You're on Straight Talk.
Yes. I'd like to know how an average person would break in this sport, say, if he wanted to, Mr. Von Erich.
An average person. Obviously, I don't think this sport's for average people, but I know what you mean. Yeah, but somebody who would like to...
Well,
A good athletic background.
for one thing, an amateur wrestling background really helps for your counters and your reversals and your pins and things like that. But I would say, and Kerry, I'm sure, would agree with me, I think you need a little bit of a football background, too. Kerry and I were both football players for most of our careers, collegiate careers.
And you know that football, and you got to have that amateur background behind you, too. But you've also got to have, you got to be built well. You can't have a big old fat belly nowadays because now we're athletes in the ring and the people see that. So if you got a fat belly, forget it. But if you don't, come on.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys in there with big bellies, man. I mean,
They're the guys that we're beating, too. But what I meant by football is, I mean, you've got to love that collision, that explosion, I mean, we love it. We love what we do.
I want to tell you this. Obviously, you're interested. You wouldn't ask that question. I don't know how you're built, but you do need some God-given size. You need to be at least 5'10". You need to start at least 185 pounds. But I want you to know something. These boys, Kevin, Kerry, David, Mike, Chris, when they were 12, 13, and 14, were the scrawniest kids you ever saw in your life. I never thought they'd amount to anything. But when they reached puberty, that's when old Dad took them into the gym. And I found out with all of my sons that champions are not born. Champions are made. They were built in those gyms. They were given good, healthy bodies, healthy minds, which, son, means you can do the same thing. I hope that you're blessed with a father and a mother that have the interest in you that we had in our children. Because that love can make you do wonders, do everything. Anyway, you get in that gym, if you're serious about it, you build that body, call Kevin or David once you think that your body is right. And maybe, just maybe, you might stand a chance.
I remember when we were wrestling or playing football, anything, it didn't matter. If we were making a touchdown, if we won the game, we'd look up in those stands and we saw our dad doing that. We knew we did all right, and that's all we wanted. We really didn't even care if we won or not, just as long as we...
Let me address these fans just a minute. Any of you old men out there, you fellas that Maybe you think you're Christians and you don't know if you are or not, and you just curse because the Von Erich's on here today. Take a good look and listen well. If you have sons, if you have children, I want you to know that my wife and I raising these boys found out it was the most fun we ever had in our life. You know why? We took time. We were a part of their lives. We made junior high track meets with Little League football. I coached some of that stuff. I've canceled wrestling matches, put main events on first so I could get out to watch Kerry throw the discus or David playing a basketball game. And you know something? You young parents, especially raising those kids today, raise those kids like you love them. Make them an integral part of your life. And you'll find it's the most fun thing you ever did. Doris and I would love to do it all over again.
You know what? You know, this is something. You know what my mom and dad did? When I was learning to throw that discus, well, I used to throw these discus, they're 4 pounds apiece, and my mom used to get out in the field, and my dad and I would throw 5 or 6 of them out there, and because she was not very big, she used to pick them up and carry these discuses 200 feet back in, and then I'd throw them back, and we did that over 200 times a day, and she was always throwing them back. My dad was always with me in every workout, and not only that, sometimes my mom would just get done making dinner, and she used to come out to the gym and spot me on my bench press, and I've got 500 pounds on the bar, and she is spotting me, this 120-pound lady, and anyway, they're just great.
Hey, by the way,
All right, we're going to come right back. They're all going to brag on each other for the rest of the show. Come on back, and you'll hear some more of these wonderful stories.
Sometimes it's almost more than you can take. There doesn't seem to be any way out. Perhaps your marriage is in trouble, or you have financial obligations far beyond your ability to pay. Maybe you're devastated by an unwanted pregnancy or an addiction to drugs or alcohol. Whatever your situation, no matter how desperate you may feel, you can overcome through prayer. The 700 Club wants you to know that you can receive answers to your prayers. Miracles happen, and lives are changed through prayer. We know because we see it happen every day. Call the 700 Club prayer line today, 1-800-446-0700. There are people here to pray with you, people who know and understand the power of prayer, people who've seen God do the impossible, and who know he'll do it again and again. Don't put it off. Call right now. Put the power of prayer to work in your life.
This is one of the few places where you can come and holler and scream and they don't take you to jail. You know, people like, you see your mother is liable to be out here hollering and screaming and cussing, carrying on like a wild raving motorcycle maniac over these wrestlers. And that's why these people come to these things, man, because it's a good way to release hostile energy without hurting nobody.
Oh, man. You guys think you're missionaries to those folks?
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I was explaining earlier that, you know, over in Israel and that sort of thing, you know, some of these people never get the word of Jesus Christ at all. But, you know, our television show goes over there, and these people, a lot of these people over in Iran and Iraq and all those countries that are in trouble, they're, you know, they're not into Jesus Christ and that sort of thing. But then again, they watch wrestling, and we go over on CBN, on you guys' station, and they see the wrestling, and then all of a sudden there's a commercial for Jesus Christ. Well, these people would have never got a commercial for Jesus Christ unless they were watching us wrestle.
Isn't that wild? All the wrestling, and all comes a commercial for Jesus Christ. Would you have sunk it?
That makes us feel really good because we feel like the Lord's using us, and that's really, I mean, that's what a man is made for if you ask us.
Listen, when Doris and I were over there taking a tour, not very far back, that poor guy that drove us all over that country, he didn't believe in anything we first started, but after 5 days of Doris, I do think he's ready to accept Jesus Christ when he left. He never even heard of him before.
Well, you backing him up, or her up, no wonder. You, Claire, Wisconsin, go ahead. You're on Straight Talk.
Yes, it's Eau Claire.
Oh, Claire, okay.
First of all, I want to say that the fingerprint of love is on the Vonick family, and it's very evident, and it's very inspiring. And I guess I have a question for Carrie. I have a 9-year-old son who's very athletic and good at that. And although he has a problem in thinking that to serve the Lord is sissified, and I guess, Carrie, he admires you, and I would ask you, what would you say to a 9-year-old boy to encourage him in serving the Lord?
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, my father weighs 270 pounds. My brother Kevin weighs 250 pounds. And, you know, let me speak of my father for a minute. My father is a big man. My father is probably one of the toughest professional wrestlers to ever enter the ring. And he'll stand there and tell you that Jesus Christ is his Savior and that he loves Jesus Christ more than anything in the whole world. And that's the way I feel. That's the way my brother Kevin feels. And I'll tell you what, if you think we're sissies, why don't you step in the ring with us, and we'll show you how much sissies we are. But we do love Jesus Christ, and if it's a sissy thing, I guess the Von Erich family is a bunch of sissies because we sure love him.
Another way of putting it, the easy way is to follow the crowd and to do what maybe you know is wrong, I mean, just because everybody else is doing it. But the strong way, the soldier's way, the fighter's way, the guy with a heart like a tiger, he does what he knows is right. And if that means follow Jesus to you, you know what's in your heart. You know what's right. Do it.
Yeah, the warrior way is to be a leader. And to be a leader is different nowadays. And it takes a real man and a real champion to be a leader.
Easy to follow the crowd.
Easy.
Very, very important role you have as role models to younger people. Chris, is this something you want to get into? Is this your future?
Well, I'll do whatever is right for me. You mentioned tax, so counting a minute, if there's any money in it, maybe I'll go into this.
Oh, is this the businessman in the crowd?
No, but I want to do, the people have been behind me for so long, the fans, and I think they expect me to wrestle, and I want to do what's right for them also, because I love them so much, because, I've been around them so long. I've grown up with them. It's like another family. But, I'll do whatever's right, and probably I'll go into promoting or into the family business some way where I can help.
Yeah, it's a business mind. That's good. You need a good businessman as well. All right, and because the fact is the Lord has a place for everyone, so, you need to know what that is in your own life. Sulphur, Louisiana, you're on Straight Talk. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I want to speak to Kerry.
All right.
I want to find out first if he's married, and second, when he's going to be wrestling in Lake Charles, Louisiana again.
Well, you're not proposing on the air, are you?
Sir, no, sir, I'm not.
I just want to cover us here. All right, go ahead, Kerry.
First of all, if the Lord wasn't listening, I'd tell you I wasn't married, but but I am. But also, about the second part of your question, I'm looking forward to coming back to Louisiana. I got lots of friends there. The whole family does. And, gosh, we'll be coming as soon as we can. And thank you for still wondering if I'm married. I still wonder how many girls wonder that. But.
Well, Kerry, how long have you been married?
5 years.
5 years, all right. And Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, I'm married, too. I've been married for 8 years.
8 years. You don't talk about that much?
Well, if somebody asks me, I will, but I don't have a chance to talk about it.
No, wait a minute, Chris.
Listening out there, I'm not married.
Now that it's out of the bag, I do want to say this. I've gotten the most beautiful wife in the world at home, and
yeah, I was going to say she's listening too. Yeah.
2 really great kids, and I love you, Kathy, and I'll see you when I get home.
I have 2 beautiful daughter-in-laws.
How do your wives feel about your occupation?
Well, my wife, of course, she's worried I'm going to get hurt and this and that. And if anything happens, like if I'm in a cage match and I get busted open or a concussion, which I've had several of, I've got this tinnitus where my ears ring all the time now from several concussions. And she worries like that, but she knows what to do. She knows how to wake me up in the middle of the night and these things, that the doctor tells her. And she worries, but this is what I do, This is what I enjoy. She's really supportive. She's a beautiful lady. I love my wife, Pam, too.
Hey, they're the prettiest things you ever saw. They really are.
Inside
it must have been nearsighted. Both of them marry these 2 guys.
Well, you could say that. I wouldn't. What about the future for your children? Would you want them in the ring?
Well, I have 2 girls.
Well, they do it too, They're wrestling.
All I'm going to do is keep them away from professional wrestlers. No, our little girls they're healthy. We wanted boys. In fact, my last little girl that was born, 18 months old right now, but I called my dad and I said, Dad, darn it, it's a girl. And he said, well, you're going to love it no matter what. So,
oh, boy. There's a group of chauvinists up here, I tell you. All right, Nashville, Tennessee, you're on Straight Talk. Go ahead.
Hi, I'd like to know how you feel about women wrestling.
Boy, we're talking about that. How do you feel about women wrestling?
Chris loves women wrestlers.
Yeah.
Answer that one.
Oh, wait a minute now. I think the best one to answer that would be Kev.
Yeah, because we're talking about wrestling in the ring with the women. That's what we're talking about. All right, what about it, Kevin?
Well, this is just my personal opinion. I like a lady to be a lady, and that's not very ladylike as far as I'm concerned. I like to see ladies soft and pretty. Cook a nice meal, huh? I like it.
Keep him in the kitchen, right?
I didn't mean to say that.
Hey, he said it. I did not say that. He said it.
I like home cooking.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, all right. We're going to have a lot more questions. We have a lot of people waiting to talk to these gentlemen when we come back. And, of course, we invite your calls on Straight Talk.
Are you searching for greater challenges in your career? Do you need further training to fulfill God's call on your life? Does the Word of God contain teachings relevant to your field?
What fun. Okay, listen. Here's the book, The Von Erichs, a family album. And this is available in most places, and I think you'll be fascinated by the account of their lives, which they've shared with us here today. Why is this family so popular? I mean, you're popular not just as individuals, but as a collective family. I mean, that says an awful lot.
You know, our wrestling show has a really high television rating. I think it's by far the highest in wrestling.
And that's in Dallas, Texas.
The whole country.
The whole country.
And I would say that I thought on it quite a bit. I believe this country has a real hunger to get back to the moral values that we had, say, 100, 150, 200 years ago. This was a country that was founded on one nation under God. And back then we were prosperous. We were a country that we couldn't do wrong. Now look at us. We've got a $1 trillion deficit. We've got problems through our ears. If we had a man that was leading our country like as good as President Reagan, maybe somebody like him that was as strong a Christian.
You're looking for the job. You're beginning to sound like a politician.
Well, maybe so, but I'm just another citizen that would like to see our country prosperous again, and I'd like to see it at one nation under God. I'd like to see our kids pray in school again. I'd like to see us do like we know is right. Quit listening to these liberals in the Congress.
You know? Whoa, man.
Sorry.
No, you have to apologize for anything.
Well,
I mean, that's your point of view.
Back in the 1950s, though, and the 60s, usually the mothers stay home and the father, worked and everything. Nowadays, in the 1980s, now the mother and father are both working, and we really feel that the families need to pull back together and get the families, as a family and a unit again. And you mentioned what makes our family so popular, and that's one of them. People see us, that we love each other, we care about each other, and we are a family, and we pray together. We just, we love each other, and that's really what makes us so popular in other countries, and that sort of thing. But it's because we love each other so much.
Well, it is obvious. Someone called in and said that, Darcy. Proverbs 31 says their children will rise up and call her blessed. They're doing that to you right on public television.
That's the woman. Has been my goal all my life. Since I became a Christian, was to be the lady in Proverbs 31.
Is that right?
Yes, I haven't reached it, but I'm still walking that direction.
Our life is sitting right here. This gal right here has been the leader of our family. She's stuck with us through thick and thin. She's mothered those kids like no mother ever has. She's been a great wife to me.
How long have you been married?
Well, it's hard to believe when they've been married longer than the age I admit to. She's 30. We've been married for 38 years.
And you're only 41.
I know. We were awfully young. Awfully young. I think I was 3.
Struthers, Ohio, go ahead. You're on Straight Talk.
Hello. Well, I wanted to fight in this one fight. And the church told me not to strike anyone unless they strike you. What should I do?
Okay, there comes a theological question from a young man.
Well, first of all, our father always taught us, our dad always taught us, never be a bully, but you fight for what you believe in. And if you have to fight because of your family or because of, you need to follow your heart. But if it says...
Let me tell you something, buddy, because I think I can read your mind right now. There's nothing we hate worse than a bully. And if somebody's picking on you, there's a bully picking on you, that's about the only language they understand is a good duke in the face. You keep it coming, and you keep it coming hard. Yeah. That's the only way to handle a bully.
Pray about it, then nail it. That's the only way to handle it. Let me tell you something.
There goes the theology right after this.
Now
here comes Mom now. She's going to mediate this.
Here comes a Christian answer.
Right. Jesus said to turn the other cheek. Jesus, of course, was talking about a heart attitude that we are to not seek revenge and seek to fight others and put ourselves above other people, and I understand that. I think that if at all possible, you should avoid a fight, if at all possible.
And we will say this too, remember, listen to your mother and father. If your mother says that, listen to her. If your father says that, listen to him. But what we would do is a lot different, probably.
Look, I mean, this is what we're seeing here depicted is this family in operation, and I think I just saw who the boss is. All right.
Used to do this around the dinner table.
This goes on around the dinner table?
This goes on around the dinner table,
Well,
yes.
you never talked back to your mother either, huh? Because you knew why? Because your dad was standing behind her?
She's the toughest one in our family still.
I do believe it. All right, we're going to take some more calls. Quincy, Illinois, go ahead. You're on Straight Talk.
Yes, my question was that when they're in the ring, what do they do? I mean, do they ever get envy and strife built up in their heart against other wrestlers?
Okay, when you're in the ring, you get strife, anger, etc., built up in your heart against other wrestlers.
We don't hate anyone. I wouldn't say that we do at all. We take each match like a challenge. But as far as strife is concerned, no, I wouldn't call it that at all. I just call it we're just very intense in what we do.
And we fight to win. And if it takes, you know, giving 100%, which it always does, we go to win.
You zap him or he's going to zap you.
Yeah, whatever it takes. Now, we don't lose our temper, and the reason we don't, because if you lose your temper, you put yourself in position to get beat.
Right.
And so we don't lose our temper, and we don't hate anyone, but we sure try to win, and we do whatever it takes.
That works in life, too. You lose your temper, and you get beat in life.
Why do you lose your temper? Will you get beat? Why is that, Jim?
Well, one thing I heard,
Let your guard down,
that when anyone who throws dirt only loses ground. I read that somewhere else.
A little philosophy here. Dayton, Ohio, go ahead. You're on Straight Talk.
My name is Roy, and I was wanting to talk to Fritz and ask him, when they trained King Kong Bundy, when they trained him, when he turned on him, if they regretted training him.
Ask that again. I mean,
when you turned on you, did you regret training them? Who are you talking about?
King Kong Bundy.
Okay, there's someone that you trained turned on you?
Bundy, is that what she's asking about?
Yeah.
Was it Bundy?
Yes.
Hon, I've trained a number of people. Bundy surprised me the least. I've had several that went back and went after the money and forgot the past, forgot our family. This boy Bundy was brought into our family, lived with us for some time. I never thought he had a lot of character, but he needed help, and we tried to help him. We did train him. The opportunity came along for him to turn his back on the family and actually cause us some problems, and which he has for a long time. And he did. It's just human nature, is the way it is.
But you know, though, we taught Bundy everything he knows, not everything we know.
All right, one final call. Providence, Rhode Island. Go ahead. You're on Straight Talk.
Yes, I have a question for Kerry. I'd like to know why he's on Channel 25 anymore, and if you are going to be on any local stations.
Where are you calling from?
Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, why don't you get out a pen and paper and write that TV station and tell them just what you're telling me.
Yeah, right.
And second of all, we just started on ESPN today covering this whole nation. And it's, at least here in Virginia, it starts at 3 o'clock here. I think, what time in Dallas, Dad?
3, 4, 5.
It's 4 there, here, I believe 3 there, I think. It's be 5 every day, 5 days, weekdays a week.
Yeah, so you'll catch us on ESPN every day from now on, so look for us. Thank you.
Well, you've had joy, you've had sorrow, you've had tragedy, you have victories, you're champions. What's the future for this family?
I wish we could ask him that. He'd tell us. But he always surprises us.
Yeah.
But he never disappoints us.
So that's where the future lies for you.
That's right. Do remember this, Scott, our boy that did leave us recently. He doesn't know that it was very meaningful. And he truly meant what he said. He said, I'm going to a better place. And didn't he ever?
Well, that's what we can all be assured of if, in fact, your life is built, as this family's is, in the Lord Jesus Christ. So no matter what hits your home, no matter what storm of life, you won't go down the tubes, the house won't collapse if Jesus is the foundation. Think about that. Thanks to Von Erich family for being with us. I'm Scott Ross. This is Straight. What is the midlife crisis and why does it rip marriages apart? We'll find out from people who've experienced it tomorrow on Straight Talk.
Straight Talk is a presentation of the 700 Club. Views expressed by guests are not necessarily those of the Christian Broadcasting Network.